3:17 in the morning, the world is still. Outside, even the streetlights seem tired. You're awake. And not because of an alarm, a noisy neighbor, or a crying baby. You're just awake. And here's the question I want you to sit with. Why? Not why as in why can't I sleep or why is this happening again, but a deeper kind of why, the kind that pokes at the edges of your purpose, the kind that asks, why is something inside me so restless that even sleep can't silence it? Most people, when they find themselves awake in the middle of the night, reach for solutions. Melatonin, white noise, their phones, or maybe a late night snack. But what if the real solution isn't about going back to sleep? What if being awake at 3 a.m. isn't a problem, but a message? You see, we've been taught to treat wakefulness during the night as an error in the system. But that's because we see rest as only physical. What if your body got enough sleep, but your soul didn't? What if this interruption isn't random, but intentional? There's a reason many ancient texts, spiritual practices, and even military tactics recognize this window of time between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. as a sacred one. The world is quiet, the distractions are paused, and for once you're not being pulled in 100 directions. Your inbox isn't pinging. No one is texting, there's no one to impress, just you and something inside that doesn't want to be ignored anymore. In this moment, before your mind races to explain it away or fill the silence, just stop, sit in the stillness, and ask, why am I awake right now? You might not get an answer immediately. That's okay. This isn't a math problem. It's a conversation. And conversations, especially the real ones, the ones that matter, take time. They require honesty, vulnerability, space. But if you listen closely, you might hear something faint, a thought that's been tapping you on the shoulder during the day, but gets drowned out by meetings, emails, and the endless scroll. Maybe it's an idea you haven't pursued. A truth you've been avoiding, a relationship you need to repair, a version of yourself you've been too afraid to become. That voice, quiet but persistent, is trying to tell you something, not to punish you, but to remind you, to wake you up, not just physically, but spiritually. Think about it. What wakes you up says a lot about what you value, even if you don't realize it yet. A mother wakes up at 3 a.m. because her baby cries. A firefighter wakes up because the alarm rings. But you woke up without a reason, or so you thought. What if this is your soul crying out? What if it's your alarm ringing? We spend so much of our lives asleep. Not just at night, but during the day. We go through the motions. We attend meetings, chase goals, hit deadlines. We survive Mondays and wait for Fridays. We say we're fine when we're not. We numb ourselves with entertainment, comfort, routine. But every now and then, something cuts through that fog. Something jolts us awake. Sometimes it comes as a crisis, sometimes as inspiration, and sometimes as a 3 a.m. wake-up call. This is not a curse, it's a call. And it's not asking for your panic, it's asking for your presence. Before you scroll, before you get up, before you calculate how many hours you have left to sleep, just be with the question, why now? Maybe it's the business you've always wanted to start, tugging at your mind. Maybe it's guilt over something left unsaid. Or perhaps it's simply that the version of you that you're pretending to be can no longer coexist with the version of you that you're meant to become. You don't have to solve everything at 3:17 a.m., but you do have to listen, because ignoring that inner voice doesn't make it go away. It just gets quieter during the day and louder at night. So here's what I want to invite you to do the next time you wake up during these hours. Don't panic and don't distract. Reflect. Sit up, breathe, let the question echo in your mind. Why am I awake? And then, if something surfaces, no matter how small or vague, write it down. Don't judge it. Don't try to understand it yet. Just honor it. That's the first step to reclaiming your purpose, by showing up when it calls, even if it calls the time you weren't expecting. Being awake between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. isn't about sleep. It's about awareness. It's the universe whispering what it won't shout during the day. It's your own intuition finally loud enough to be heard. And it's your responsibility to listen. So the next time you wake up during these quiet hours, don't say, I can't sleep. Say, something within me is waking up. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most important kind of awakening there is. We live in a world that rewards urgency over intention. The moment we wake up, whether it's at 7 a.m. or 3:47 a.m., our first instinct isn't to reflect, it's to react. And more often than not, we react by reaching for the small rectangular device next to our pillow, our phones. Why? Because we're conditioned to believe that the answers are out there, that clarity, comfort, connection, whatever we think we're missing, lives somewhere on a screen. It's become so automatic that we don't even notice we're doing it. We wake up in the middle of the night, and before we even ask ourselves how we're feeling, we're scrolling headlines, checking emails, reading texts, watching videos. But here's what no one tells us. Every time you reach outward in a moment that was meant to take you inward, you dilute the message. That quiet moment, when you wake up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., isn't a glitch in your sleep cycle. It's a pause, a space, a sacred interruption. And the worst thing you can do with that space is fill it with noise. Because that's what the phone is, noise. Not just in terms of sound or notifications, but in what it does to our internal rhythm. It hijacks our thoughts before they've had a chance to form. It overwhelms our stillness before we even understand why it showed up in the first place. What if that 4 a.m. wake-up wasn't an invitation to check what's happening in the world, but a chance to check what's happening inside you? But we resist that, because going inward is uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar. It doesn't give us dopamine in the same way a like, a comment, or a video might. Going inward requires presence. It requires patience. Most of all, it requires honesty. See, the phone is a brilliant escape. It's a convenient way to avoid facing what really woke us up. The worry we've buried under busyness, the dream we've postponed, the fear we haven't faced, the truth we've been quietly denying. And yet, it's in that exact discomfort where growth lives. Think of it this way. Your phone is designed to connect you to the world. But these early morning hours, they're designed to connect you to yourself. And you can't connect with yourself if you are already outsourcing your attention to a screen. It's like being in the middle of a deep conversation with someone you care about, and halfway through you pull out your phone and start scrolling. The message gets lost. The moment disappears. And the person on the other end feels abandoned. That's what we do to ourselves every time we wake up with something stirring inside us and then ignore it to check Instagram. What's the cost? It's not just lost sleep, it's lost insight, lost awareness, lost alignment. Because when you wake up in that kind of stillness, your brain isn't operating in problem-solving mode. It's more intuitive. More connected to your subconscious. That's why some of our clearest thoughts, most creative ideas, or unresolved emotions rise to the surface in those hours. It's not random. It's your mind trying to tell you something, not distract you. But if you reach for your phone, you won't hear it. You'll drown it out. So here's the invitation. The next time you wake up during these sacred hours, resist the reflex. Instead of reaching outward, stay inward. Let the silence speak. Sit in the dark if you have to. Breathe, stretch. Close your eyes and ask, what's really waking me up right now? Not what time is it or what's trending, but what's stirring inside me. You might not get an answer right away. That's okay. The point isn't to solve a mystery. The point is to create the conditions for clarity to find you. And clarity only comes when we make room for it. Some people meditate during these hours, others pray, some journal. You don't have to do any of those things exactly, but you do have to be present. You do have to be available to yourself, because if you're not, those moments of awakening will eventually stop trying to reach you. Not because they're gone, but because you've trained yourself not to notice. And isn't that what we're all afraid of? That we'll miss the signals? That we'll get so busy surviving our days that we'll forget what we're really here to do? It's not about being perfect. It's about being aware. Awake not just in body, but in spirit. That's the real gift of this 3 a.m. moment. Not more time, but deeper truth. And truth doesn't live in your feed. It doesn't refresh every 30 seconds. It lives quietly, patiently, in the parts of you that only come alive when the world is still. So let the world stay quiet a little longer. Don't rush back to the noise. Don't reach for the answers out there. Let the questions guide you inward. Because when you stop reacting and start reflecting, something remarkable happens. You begin to hear yourself again. And once you do, you won't want to go back to sleep. There's something different about thoughts that show up at 4:11 in the morning. They don't arrive with the same tone as your daily to-do list. They don't follow the same rules as office memos or Monday morning agendas. They're not polished, organized, or filtered for clarity. Instead, they come raw, vulnerable, messy, uninvited, but also honest. And that honesty, that's rare, that's valuable, and that's exactly why it needs to be captured. Most people will wake up in the middle of the night, feel a thought tug at them, maybe a worry, maybe an idea, maybe a feeling they can't quite name, and then do something tragic. They ignore it. They assume it's nothing. They trust that it will be there in the morning. But it won't. Not in the same way. Because night thoughts have a short shelf life. They live in a fragile space between dreaming and wakefulness. They don't fight for attention like your notifications do. They whisper. And if you don't catch them, they slip away. That's why I believe that if you're waking up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. and your mind is active, there is one thing you must do before anything else. Write it down. Not because writing is poetic or dramatic, but because it's real. Because what you're thinking about in those hours isn't just chatter. It's insight. And writing is how you respect it. Writing isn't about being a writer. It's about being a noticer. It's about being someone who says, this moment matters. This feeling matters. This thought might be trying to tell me something. When we put pen to paper or fingers to keys, we slow ourselves down just enough to hear what's underneath the noise. That's when patterns emerge. That's when the same worry you've dismissed 5 nights in a row starts to feel like a signal instead of a nuisance. That's when the dream that's been lingering in your subconscious starts to take shape with words. You don't need a journal with gold foil lettering. You don't need a system, a prompt, or a title. You just need honesty. Think about it. Most of us spend our days thinking about what others expect from us. We adapt, we perform, we make decisions based on consensus or convenience. But at 3:48 a.m., there's no one to impress, no one watching, no expectations, just you and the thoughts you don't normally give yourself permission to feel. And when you write them down, something powerful happens. They become visible. Thoughts left unspoken or unwritten can be slippery. They swirl around, repeat themselves, get louder, more confusing. But when you write them down, you give them form. You take something invisible and make it real. That's the first step toward understanding and toward change. Maybe it's a sentence that says, I'm not happy in my job. Maybe it's a single word, scared, lonely, ready. Maybe it's an idea for a new project or a reminder to call your mother. It doesn't have to be profound. It just has to be true. And truth doesn't always arrive in bold headlines. Sometimes it comes in the quietest of moments, in the gentlest of phrases. When you write it down, you do more than preserve it, you honor it. You create a record of your inner world. And over time, those records begin to tell a story of where your mind wanders when it's not being pushed, a story of what your heart reaches for when it's not being told what to care about, and that story, that's the map. We spend so much time asking for directions, wondering where to go, what to do, who to be, but often the answers aren't out there. They're already inside. We've just never taken the time to write them down and look at them. Writing doesn't give you all the answers, but it gives you clues. And more importantly, it gives you perspective, because sometimes the simple act of reading your own words back to yourself is enough to spark a shift. You see the same worry show up across 3 nights, and suddenly you realize it's not random. It's recurring. You write the same desire in different forms. And eventually it stops feeling like a fantasy and starts feeling like a calling. The page becomes a mirror. Not the kind that shows you your reflection, but the kind that shows you your truth. And the beautiful part is, no one else ever has to read it. It's not for them. It's for you. It's your proof that something real is happening inside you, that something is waking up, even if you don't fully understand it yet. But if you don't write it down, you'll forget. You'll wake up in the morning, make your coffee, scroll your feed, check your schedule, and that fragile insight will fade into the noise of the day. That's the tragedy. Not that people don't have clarity, but that they don't catch it when it comes. So I challenge you, the next time you wake up in those early hours and your mind is racing or whispering, don't just lie there. Don't push it away. Don't tell yourself, I'll remember this later. Sit up, grab a pen, open your notes app, write this sentence, capture the question, honor the moment. Because what you're thinking about at 4 a.m. might be the most honest version of yourself you've heard in weeks. And all it's asking is to be seen, to be known, to be written. And maybe, just maybe, that's the beginning of something that changes everything. It's tempting to wake up and immediately start thinking about everything you have to do. The meetings you need to attend, the emails waiting in your inbox, the errands you forgot yesterday, the deadlines that are now closer than they were the night before, especially if you wake up early. Between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., your mind starts spinning faster than you can catch up with it. It's almost like the day tries to rush in before the sun even rises. And in that rush, we make a familiar mistake. We confuse movement with meaning. We confuse being busy with being effective. We think that starting early and getting ahead on our to-do list is the best way to use that time. But what if it's not? What if the most powerful thing you can do in that moment is not to create 10 tasks, but to define one intention? Because here's the truth. Doing more is not the same as living better. You can check all the boxes, hit every goal, send every email, and still feel like something's missing. That's because productivity without purpose is just motion. It doesn't move you forward. It just keeps you spinning. Now think about this. Have you ever had one of those days where you accomplished everything on your list, and yet when your head hit the pillow that night, you still felt unfulfilled? That's because you were focused on what to do, not on who to be. You got things done, but you didn't get any closer to yourself. So what if, on the mornings when you wake up early, with a rare kind of silence and clarity, you resisted the temptation to start planning tasks and instead asked a different question? What kind of person do I want to be today? That's a different kind of checklist. It's not about efficiency, it's about alignment. You might say, today I want to be present. Or today I want to be courageous. Maybe today I want to be patient. Especially if you know your day will test you in 100 different ways. That one intention becomes your compass. It becomes the filter through which all your decisions pass. It informs how you do everything, not just what you do. Because when you start your day from intention, your actions gain meaning. When you start with tasks, your meaning gets buried under action. There's a reason intention matters more than volume. You can answer 50 emails and still be disconnected. But you can make one phone call. One real heartfelt call to someone you love, and that might be the moment that defines your entire day. Maybe your entire week. That's the difference between living reactively and living intentionally. One is built on urgency, the other is built on clarity. And clarity doesn't come from multitasking. It comes from focus. Think of your mind like a lens. At 3 a.m., it's wide open. It sees clearly. It notices things you missed during the day. But if you immediately start packing it with logistics and obligations, that lens fogs up. You lose the signal. You get swept back into the noise. But if you take that space, that rare early silence, and hold it just a little longer, if you ask, who do I want to be today? You set the tone. You set the standard. And now everything else flows from there. Let's say your intention is kindness. That one word changes everything. It shifts how you speak to your spouse, how you lead your team, how you handle the person who cuts you off in traffic. It creates consistency. It creates purpose. Or maybe your intention is discipline. Suddenly, the choices you make around your time, your food, your distractions, they all point back to that. You're not making decisions on the fly. You're acting from a place of clarity. That's the power of a single intention. It gives your actions a through line. It aligns your day with your values. And here's what's remarkable. One clear intention can outperform 10 well-planned tasks because the intention has depth. It guides you when plans fall apart. It anchors you when the day gets messy, which it always will. And even if you don't finish everything on your list, if you lived your intention, if you acted in alignment with it, you'll end that day with a sense of peace. Not the false peace that comes from exhaustion or box checking, but the deep peace that comes from knowing you lived on purpose. You were the person you said you would be. That matters. We often think we need more time, more discipline, better tools, but often what we really need is just more intention. So the next time you find yourself awake before the world stirs, resist the urge to plan your entire day. Don't start with logistics. Don't list every errand, every meeting, every call. Start with a word, a sentence, a question. Who do I want to be today? Let that guide you. Let that shape the energy you bring into every room, every interaction, every challenge. Let that become your reason for rising. Not just early in the morning, but in your life. Because at the end of the day, no one remembers how many emails you sent. No one remembers how many tasks you checked off. But they will remember how you showed up, who you were, what you stood for. And maybe, just maybe, so will you. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is also the most overlooked. It sounds too simple, too basic, too human. Just breathe. It's something we do every moment of every day, yet hardly ever notice until we can't, until we're overwhelmed, until our heart races and our mind spins and everything inside us screams for stillness. Then suddenly we remember breath is everything. But let's talk about those hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. when the world is quiet and you're the only one awake. When your body stirs and your eyes open and for reasons you might not fully understand, you're alert. Maybe your mind is heavy. Maybe your chest feels tight. Maybe a dream woke you or a thought you didn't ask for crept in. In that space, what most people do is search for a fix. They reach for something, anything, to make it stop, to quiet the discomfort, to fill the silence. But what if the first thing you did was nothing? What if the first thing you offered yourself wasn't noise, wasn't distraction, wasn't movement, but a breath? Not a shallow one, not the kind you take when you're rushing to get to the next thing. I mean the kind of breath that brings you back to your body, that reminds you you're here, you're alive, you're safe, you're capable. Because breath is not just biology. It's communication. It's your nervous system talking to you. It's your body saying, slow down. I've got you. Stay with me. And when you listen, really listen, you begin to understand something profound. Breath is presence. Presence is a rare thing these days. We live in a world that pulls our attention in 100 different directions before breakfast. But breath anchors you. It doesn't let you drift too far away from what's real. It brings you back to the only moment that truly matters. This one. I don't care if you've never meditated in your life. I don't care if you don't know the difference between breath work and breathing. None of that matters. What matters is that in those early sacred hours when your mind is loud and your heart is tender, you don't rush past the invitation to breathe. Because that's what it is, an invitation to pause, to be, to come home to yourself before the world starts asking you to be everything to everyone else. Think about how most days begin. Fast, noisy, demanding. The alarm goes off, the emails come in, the calendar fills up. There's little time to think, let alone to feel. You move from one task to another, and somewhere along the way you forget what calm feels like. But at 3:42 a.m., none of that is happening. Yet the world hasn't made its request, the expectations haven't landed, and that moment before anything else belongs to you. What you do with it matters. And breathing is how you claim it. Not because it fixes everything, but because it centers everything. Slows your heartbeat. It signals to your body we're not in danger. It gives you space between the thought and the reaction. It creates a cushion where clarity can settle in. Most of us are carrying tension we don't even realize. We're breathing from our chest instead of our diaphragm. We're in a low-grade fight or flight state without any visible threat. That's because we've made stress our default, not our emergency setting. But breath is how you reset that. Deep, conscious breathing is the opposite of panic. It's the antidote to hurry. In the early morning hours, it's a powerful way to realign with what matters. I've heard people say, I don't have time for breath work. But breath isn't something you make time for. It's already happening. The question is, are you paying attention to it? Let me be clear. This isn't about performance. This isn't about doing it right or turning it into a task. This is about awareness, about noticing, about making the unconscious conscious. Try it. Just 3 deep breaths, in through your nose, out through your mouth, slowly, intentionally. Feel your chest rise, your shoulders drop, your thoughts soften. Nothing dramatic, nothing complicated, just space. And in that space, maybe you'll notice something you missed. Maybe a fear you haven't admitted to yourself. Maybe a hope you didn't realize you still carried. Or maybe, just maybe, a deep sense of calm that says, you're okay, even now. Breath has a way of telling the truth. It reveals where we're tense, where we're holding on, where we're clinging to control. And when we pay attention, we can start to let go.